What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's Mr. Gus been 3 days and go live. How you guys doing today? Today's gonna be open panel. If you guys want to discuss anything you want, first we are going to talk something. You know, it's bothers me a lot. Okay, a lot of people doesn't know the homeless have rights, and it's sad. You know, hey Daniel, it's the guy being listening to the news in California. Newsom passed the one all the camp move has funded as soon as possible. He's saying he funded $1 billion to for the homelessness. Okay, where's the $1 billion at? You
in
know?
their pockets.
Yeah, where's the $1 billion? He says he give it. He didn't say one
In
thing at
his
all.
pocket. Yep. It's in his pocket. He's bought him a new house. And hey, Angel. Hey, Daniel.
Hey Sonia, welcome. It's like where is the $1 billion? Where it is? You know? You know what I
Right.
don't understand? Okay? All the hotels are closed down because of COVID-19. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They could make all the hotels into homes or homeless homes camp if they wanted to. But no, you know?
They could, but it's not
Yeah.
going to benefit them. And that's the problem. How's it going to benefit them?
Well, give them free rent for these 6 months to get
But
them
it's
a
not
job.
going to benefit them. They're not going to make no money off it because they're just not going to make no money off it. So it's not going to benefit them. So why would they do it? And that's the mentality a lot of people have. We're out for ourselves. We're out to make money for ourselves, but we don't have no humanity at all. The
Oh,
the fact that we're all humans and we don't have no kind of feelings. Our feelings are about other things in life, like money, who's at the top, keeping up with the Joneses, that kind of stuff.
so thank you, Sonia, for coming in my chat. Thank you.
Hi, Sonia.
Welcome.
Home.
Oh, make
Oh, I
those
thought that was
affordable.
Angel. I can't see today, I guess.
Yeah. Oh,
Sonia.
make it. What's up, all the channel? How you doing? What's up? What's up? Oh, make make those hotels into like veteran homes. You know, veteran people or or like housing. You know.
Well, that's the thing too is the government has to purchase them, right?
You know
For it
what
to
is like?
become housing. It's either we're gonna purchase them, which we don't have money, right? Like we're
Two.
having you're talking about these ideas. So
Yeah.
if we had the money, or if you or I had the money, I'm sure one of us would purchase it, open it up, and do it. But it's having to be the government to do it now. The people running the government are not benefiting from it, so they're not going to do it. That's why they're homeless or unsheltered, whatever you want to call them. Less fortunate.
You know, I don't know how it's going to work if because okay, I understand people go home camps. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is if you are in a public place and it doesn't own by the city but own a private company, then leave them alone. You know, you got no right to kick them out. Let the owner of the property handle it, not the city. That pissed me off because half of them.
What if you don't know if the city owns it, or they have a contract with the city to do that? And then, like what Sonia said, the government has done that, just that. but they have them. They have them given them to the refugees. See, our priorities isn't about us American people. It's more about those other people that are coming in to help them benefit from the American money.
We have enough money to do both.
We
We
do,
do. Yeah, we
yeah,
have
we
money
do.
to do both.
But it's
But the
but
problem
see,
is
uh-huh.
we gotta stop helping the Ukraine fighting. First do our thing first. You know? It's okay to
But you
help
know
them
why
fight.
we're helping Ukraine, right? You know why we're helping Ukraine.
No, I don't know why, because I'm not following it, you know. I don't know
It's
why.
not that you have to follow it. It's just you're having to pay attention. There's information out there that okay, Biden has ties, right? Because obviously Hunter Biden was out there, he was doing his thing, so he has ties there. So now they're getting the kickback from Zelensky. They're getting kickback, so they're getting paid. Remember what I said? They have to benefit from it.
Hmm?
So we're sending millions and billions of dollars over there to Ukraine, but Biden's getting the kickback. So they're getting the money back. That's why Joe Biden doesn't want Biden to step down. Because they're getting kickbacks. They're getting paid. They're
But
getting
it's too late. He's
they're
ready to step
getting our
down.
money. And they're getting our money without having to steal it. They're sending it to another country, and that country's putting it into account
Yeah,
for
the
Biden.
problem is okay. The state says we give them money, even
Hmm.
even the president. But
Hmm.
where is the money going to? Where is the money? Prove it. Where's the
There's
money
no
going?
money. There's no money. The paper is the money that they're printing in a place. There's no money. Money's in gold. It was always been in gold and silver. We're just printing something. Even back then, they told us to stop printing it, but they can just print it.
She make
That's
a
why
good
Bill.
point. She said, Sonia says, so our homeless, still homeless, the refugees, and given a place to stay that has many hotel use only for residents now. Because
Hmm.
it's, because it's the government fault. The government is helping the homeless. The government think the homeless is like dirt. You know, like they think the homeless is like the African people, you know, the dirt. They're not. They're human beings like us. Half of them isn't homeless. Half of them have jobs. They can afford it. You know? It doesn't mean when you sleep in the car, that means you're homeless. You know? You can't afford it. Big difference. You know?
Well, the thing is, too, the reason why some of them are homeless is because their rent went up and they couldn't afford
Yes,
it.
exactly. Yes. They still have jobs. You know?
But then
But
that's
that's
when the government needs to shut it down for the home owner or the landlord that they can't be doing these things. They need to have the state should have in place that okay, you can't rent you cannot raise rent for at least 5 years. If
because
they're in a 5 year term with you, they cannot raise that rent.
what we did when COVID
Hmm.
came, COVID 2019 came, free
Hmm.
rent for the whole year. That's the one mistake they did. One mistake.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
because everybody got used to it.
Yep, it did. And one of the Democrat was saying in the long run it's gonna hurt us in 4 years. And guess what? It is. Because they're saying if you do that in 4 years, it's going to go up of the cost of living, it's gonna go up everything. And guess what? It did. You know?
Well, the cost of living and everything went up, but the pay raise didn't.
Exactly.
So when we're making pay raise or when we're making cost of living go up, why can't pay raises go up?
Because the
So if a
corporate
person
doesn't want
making
it.
$21 an hour right now needs to be making $25 an hour then.
You know what they should do? When you raise up the minimum wage, lower the rent.
Right.
Then get back to where you started at. Then after that, then start raising little by little. You know? You cannot raise the rent when when it goes up the pay rate. You don't do that because you'll never catch up. It's getting worse. You know, anyone should know that. But not politics. You know, anybody should know that.
I mean, it's a given. It's right in our faces, and we're just, I don't know. Like
It's
I
not
said, it goes back to
happening
the humanity.
in the United States. Now it's happening in the UK. You see homeless people in the UK. You see homeless people
Almost
in
people
Canada.
everywhere.
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, my mom told me last 20 years, 30 years, when my mom was born in Paris, France, there was no homeless at all. You know?
Right.
It all started when COVID-20 shut down.
Right. Right. Which was that was the plan. Yes, that's right. Everything is more expensive these days. Rent, food, tax, working people don't receive enough pay rise to meet the rise. Yeah, yeah. So if the milk, okay, so the milk was what, a dollar something at one point. So if it's at, because I think right now milk's at like $4, $5, right? In some states it's probably even $7, and it was
Organic
at
milk is $6. Organic milk, yeah.
$6. But it was a dollar at one point. It was $1.99 or something like that, $2.99.
Yeah.
So with that $4 increase right there, because that was all, that's basically a $4 or $5 increase. That increase should also be on your paycheck, or them not take the federal and state taxes no more out of our checks because it's already been paid for through the food.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't even trust the food because the food's been contaminated as well. So what's the point? We're
That's
gonna
going to
have
be
to
another
find.
topic I'm going to discuss
Yeah,
this week.
there's so many topics out there that you could talk about.
Yeah,
There's
it's going to be the food topic. Started the first. I'm going to talk the food topic. I was for the same one on. You know, there's a lot of topics because right now it's to the end of the month. You know,
right.
that's what I'm going to start a new topic. You know, I'm going to.
No. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, every
all.
week
It's
it's
all
going to be
enough.
a topic. I'm going to discuss. You know,
Hmm.
it's going to be states. Each states. Well,
That's a good topic though. That you wrote it down.
I'm going to.
Okay, make sure you write it down so we don't lose these. Remember, because
Yeah. Well,
you're gonna ask me, and
you
I'm
have
gonna be
any?
like, I have no idea what we're talking about. Let's see. I'm gonna add to you real quick. Hold on. Let's see. What is your title? Oh,
I don't know
nice.
yet.
Okay. No. Oh,
Is
you're gonna
our
change it later.
is our food safe to eat?
Okay.
So you know. Hey, Sony and Tom. Tell me all about your channel a little bit. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the topic I have. But now,
Yeah. You have any videos on it?
yes, but I'm afraid to play it.
Why?
Uh,
Because of music?
yeah, no, my internet's not working that great.
Oh, okay.
Plus, they have some clips, but short clips, you know.
All right.
I wonder. Oh, you're from UK. Ah,
Wonder who wrote the book of love.
does UK have homeless too?
I'm sure.
The UK.
But they're probably trying to help. They're probably trying to do more than what the American people
Yes,
are. Or the American.
that's why I heard. Yes, you know, but I cannot say it because I'm not from the UK. You know,
Right.
because I heard the our state, the country is helping them.
Well, that's good because at least they're attempting to do
I'm
something.
just listen. I'm not sure. You know.
Oh. But I mean, I'm sure they're attempting to do more than what we are.
Okay,
We
let
don't
me.
even help our veterans. You know, like we're a lot of us say we're for the veterans, but how many are actually out there helping the veterans? And how can we? You know, and that's the questions. How can we? What can we? You know. Oh, she said they got a lot of homeless.
Oh, oh, wow. Yeah, but the government helping them?
Well, and that goes back to the Olympics. And instead of us having the Olympics every year, why don't we do something for the homeless?
The Olympics is every 4 years. Not every
Well,
year.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's every 4 years or what. We're doing something like that. We could be doing something for the people.
Huh, wow. Here's a short video. Homelessness, government want hit target in rough sleeping 2024. Report says that's from
Hi,
the
Caroline
UK. Hold on,
Diamond Productions.
let me
Welcome in.
hey Caroline. Let's see. Share it. Let me see. Go share. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Let's 2024. Let's see. Let's see. That's 10 months ago. Let's see the short video. Hold on.
Ian has been off and on the streets since he was 17. We followed his progress since the pandemic. Last Christmas was spent in a self-built wooden home under a flyover in Hammersmith. By the spring, he'd moved to Skegness and got a job in McDonald's.
Spare a little change, please.
But come early summer, he was back on the streets in West London. There's a helpline that links rough sleepers with supportive accommodation. Concerned members of the public can also use it. But Ian wasn't optimistic.
And it is likely that it may take some time before a member of the team can answer your call.
Just want to see if we can actually speak to someone.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. I can tell you that now.
So were you off for drugs when you were in Skegness? Completely?
Yeah, everything for like 4 months.
But just a day on the streets in London, and Ian was back on heroin and crack.
Yeah, it's pointless trying to stay away from it, to be honest, when you're on the streets, because you can't. It's, you know, it's on the streets.
This phone call is ridiculous.
I know, and you wonder why people are homeless, because they don't do what they say on the tin. They say, oh, we help homeless people, we get them off the street, do you? All right, cool, but I'm coming now, yeah.
And soon after that, Ian was off to get some drugs.
Yes. You don't have to film him meeting
Yeah,
you.
you can't film it, I will literally get killed.
Meanwhile, I stayed on hold.
They are not going to answer.
Tell me about where you're sleeping tonight.
Well, I'm sleeping just up here. Yeah, this is my little house at the moment. Yeah.
Right. Quite as good.
While he went to score. I've been on hold 30 minutes now. Most homeless people's phones would have run out of credit. 5 minutes later, Ian had got what he wanted. Today's report by the Kerslake Commission warns rough sleeping was up a quarter this year. It suggests local authorities should be funded to provide guaranteed accommodation for rough sleepers like Ian, and more investment in drug and alcohol support.
How badly did you need that?
Bad. Like, I needed it before UK.
But do you worry about what it's doing to you?
Not really.
What would get you off it again?
Getting in somewhere.
Just getting a home.
Yeah. Just want
No,
a
that
job in a
won't.
normal life,
It's
but
a lie.
it's hard to get. People don't want me to have that.
How are you feeling now?
All right. Yeah. Like, I need to go and make more money.
So you're already thinking about the next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Gonna go?
Because he didn't even stop him
Yeah,
from
'cause
doing
that's
it in
what
front
I'd
of the
do
man in the
anyway.
camera.
Okay. Let's do it.
Caucasian Sasquatch, what's up?
I believe he's still on it. Well, actually,
And after our hold,
Yeah, I'm just calling on behalf of a guy called Ian who's currently homeless and on the street, and he's looking for somewhere to stay tonight.
Ian was connected to a
Hey,
local
Margaret,
outreach
Ian.
team a few days
How are you
later, but
doing?
he's still on the streets. Street
Yep,
Link says it's successfully
It
managed
wasn't
half a million
helpful either.
alerts since 2012. The Kerslake report wants more social housing to help people on the brink. But with budgets stretched, a man without a home, without a ballot paper, might not be next year's political
Wow. Huh. I didn't know it was that bad.
But see, he was still trying to chase his drug.
Uh,
He had a chance to have living,
Yeah.
but he rather chase a drug. And there's a lot of them out there. They're chasing the drug. They're chasing something that helped them survive being homeless, you know, or in the situation of being homeless. So now that's their comfort, right? Yes, I
Yeah.
want it.
But yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. There was some government out, but since COVID and some changes, there more and more people becoming homeless. A lot have mental health issues and dependent on drugs and alcohol. Some just bad luck. Too.
Well, that also comes back to hospitals and these places giving them the drugs. Because how else are they getting hooked on these drugs? I can go in right now and say, "Oh, I got back pain." They're gonna give me an opioid. And I
Yeah,
don't
big.
take pills. I don't take pills. I don't want a pill. I want something that's gonna solve my problem. I don't want a temporary fix that I gotta become, stuck on or hooked on. I don't want a temporary fix. I want a permanent fix.
Okay. Let's see. Go home.
I mean, I would want a permanent fix. I don't want something that I'm just gonna be hooked on. What is that gonna do for me?
Come on, you Dominic. Come on. Come on. Good. Let's see. Let's go for law informant. Okay, let's
Oh, she said it's not so easy to
see.
seeing a
What's
doctor
is
now in the UK.
updating? Oh, it's harder?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
That was a year ago. The criminalizing of homelessness in San Diego.
Yeah.
It is a year ago, but I mean, I wonder if he'd go out today and how bad it really is now. And they're looting.
Oh, you
the
know
home.
him?
No,
Oh, you know him?
no, I do not. I
Let
just
me
happen
go
to see
check.
it. Hey, Austin, what's up?
I just want to check to see if it's not.
The
Oh, yeah, I
homelessness
changed
epidemic is inescapable, enforcing its ban on
I
homeless
changed
people.
to the
Is there
sugar.
nowhere else to go? Is there just nowhere else that they want to go? Our
On.
The
Go
healthcare
home.
system had changed so much these days.
I never slept with him.
Wait, she said you wait 3 or
Oh,
4 months.
1.5 million people.
Oh wow, that's a lot of people.
I don't know. What do you think? No? West Side?
I mean, we're watching it now, so they can just watch it like that.
I just want to see if it's not copyright. Hold
Okay.
on. Okay. Hold on.
He might be fair use, but
That's what I'm doing.
right.
Okay, hold on. Nope. Doesn't say nothing. Isn't it? Website?
Scroll down more. No, see, he's a
No,
nonprofit.
all comments.
You're good. No, go back up. Go back up a little. Right there where he says that he's the 501c. So keep going. You go back. No, go. You're going too fast.
Oh,
Okay, so he's an organizer. He's an organizer of this channel. So this channel is actually a 501c, which is a nonprofit. So he goes out and he helps. He's helping. He's
that
making
means
sure-
I can play the videos then.
Yes, because
Okay.
he's wanting his information
Okay,
out there.
let's go check this video out.
I'm
Okay.
sure he's fair with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, let's go his channel. Let's see
Table.
what videos he have. You know?
Mm-hmm. How you feeling?
Because I like his channel. Not bad.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He's got a lot of stuff too.
Fundraiser.
3 days ago. The racial equalization. Okay. Without living, without water.
67 years old. Wow, 4 weeks ago.
Look at that one. Stop arresting a month ago right there. Stop arresting homeless people. Because that's what we're doing, homeless, right? Oh,
Yeah,
that
where?
was 3 weeks ago.
On
Never
top?
give up hope. No, right? Go back down. Oh, yeah, there's even one 2 weeks ago right there.
Which one? Never give up hope? Stop harassing homeless?
Well,
Let's do that.
those are 3 weeks ago.
Just
Never give up.
stop
was 3 weeks
harassing them.
ago. Okay, yeah, do that one. Stop arresting. Because we're talking about cops too. Today I played the saxophone. All right. Which are
All of these criminalization approaches are rooted in the idea that people are
which
choosing
one?
to
That
be
one was
homeless,
in the UK, I
and if we
think.
make home
That video, right, Gregory? Your last video?
Same
Oh,
old tired
damn it.
tactics of thinking that they can
Okay.
arrest themselves out of homelessness.
this is an inflection
one
point for our
down now.
country. We're asking the question: does the Constitution protect homeless people, or does it not?
The system segment of our population. Look to see who's profiting off of poverty.
Oh, there are evil people in the world.
I clearly think, as a James Bond villain,
Homeless
Follow the money.
are crime. Asking
underpaid,
for donations
overworked homeless
is not a
service
crime either,
professionals and
because the
advocates
church
are
can be
literally
donating.
beating back billionaires. We can turn there, we can flip how this is shaking out and win.
There are no excuses. We know how to end homelessness, and we have the resources right here and now.
It's
That's
just
smooth.
a matter of having the political will
Yeah.
to invest in solutions. To me, the irony of it all is
Experts and discuss how criminalization of homelessness is spreading and what you can do about it. We sit down National Homelessness Law Center. David Perry is the executive director of the Miami Coalition Advance. He has lived experience of homelessness and he is a lawyer. Mari Castaldi is the director of state housing policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Tell us about this text you got.
About a sweep in Midtown Miami. It's in the oldest black of Miami called Business District. It's where all the black homeless encampments used to be. The text was about an ongoing series of sweeps that have now left
Exactly,
pretty
yeah.
much the entire streets where there is
I'm gonna
probably
say
about
S&T.
200 people sleeping entirely barren.
But those people weren't helped. They're just pushed to another area.
All their possessions apparently were trashed, taken away. The text said that they came in with these big garbage trucks that had the big mechanical claw that snatched up the tents and dumped them into a dump truck. And I'm also hearing from a lawyer who had just settled a lawsuit against the city, just literally trashing of people's possessions without reasonable notice. They sold for $300,000 just really less than a month ago on behalf of four plaintiffs. And he said that in a call earlier today, and this is even before the latest sweep, he said on a call earlier today that it appears the city is violating the terms of the settlement agreement to give people at least 72 hours notice before they come through and sweep a certain area, and that they would also protect people's valued possessions and have a place where you could deposit it and come back and get it later on. But no, the city is simply going through and trashing everybody's stuff, scattering people.
You know, Austin X have a question. I just know that on our chat. You know.
Mm-hmm.
What question do you have, Austin? He says, Gurgulet, who sent me back a answer to my... What are you talking about, Austin? What does it mean? Let me send me
You
back
never
a...
got the lady turtle question or picture, or should I repost it? No, I did. I said something about the lady the turtle. I said something about the turtle. I answered it.
Oh, he's talking to you. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. He's talking about me.
Okay,
I changed it, but you can't see it, so I changed it back because he was asking about my avatar.
But then I said, what are you talking about? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. No, I answered it. I don't know if he heard
And here
me.
we
or
are.
not.
I never thought we would be in a place 4 or 5 years ago.
I changed it back. You can't
Momentum
see it.
for housing was pushing forward, and now it's going backwards and going backwards fast. And I can't even imagine like what's happening in Kentucky, where the law is that somebody can use deadly force to remove a homeless person from their property.
And I think we have to be clear that this is not an accident. There is a well-funded, well-coordinated campaign, not only to gut housing first, but to arrest and criminalize people experiencing homelessness. It does not happen in a vacuum, and we're getting out organized. We're getting our butts beaten. We can turn the narrative. We can flip how this is shaking out and win, because half of Americans are paying more than they can afford in rent. More and more Americans know that it's too expensive around that, but we have to do it, and there's no better time than now.
I really believe we're at a pinnacle moment. Could be 6 months, could be 2 years, but it's so urgent. We may never get a chance to recover.
Yeah, I think that another thing to note is, you mentioned Kentucky. We know that there are a wave of proposed pieces of legislation, particularly across deeply conservative states. But it's also the sweeps are happening. Criminalization is commonplace in places like we are right now in San Francisco, in like some of supposedly the most progressive cities and states in the country, but where we also know housing costs have spiraled so far beyond what people can control that homelessness is at a scale that's really never been seen before. And I worked at Legal Aid in Oakland
and I'll
10
check on
years
it,
ago
Austin.
and was working with folks facing exactly
That's probably what I didn't
David just
understand.
described. And so, it's a question, I think, not only of like how to understand what is happening with some of these conservative forces, the well-funded forces, but also how they're really permeating more into sort of like the commonplace narrative, even in progressive places.
And you made a good point that, it's not just a Republican thing. It's so easy for us to say, it's a right-wing thing, but Democrats too, because they're pandering to voters.
In DC, the National Park Service, who reports to the president, who is a Democrat, just announced that they're going to be clearing another encampment in May in order to beautify a park to get ready for the 250th birthday of America. What is more American than kicking homeless people out of a park.
So
Happy birthday.
just to follow up on what you're saying, I see this as one of the few
Exactly.
areas of bipartisan consensus
Right.
where it certainly appears that no matter if you're in a red state, blue state, whether you regard yourself as a conservative or a progressive or liberal, nonetheless, you seem to be resorting, or they seem to be resorting to the same old tired tactics of thinking that they can arrest themselves out of homelessness, or they can somehow subject the homeless to such cruel circumstances as to somehow force them into quote unquote accepting services that they'll say in the same breath aren't available, by the way. Okay. It's bad enough that you agree on criminalization, but when you realize that criminalization has been tried for what, 40 years now? And all we're doing is digging ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole, you know? And if the first rule of holes is to stop digging, it certainly appears to me that the localities are doing the exact opposite. They're not asking for a ladder out of the hole. They're simply asking for a bigger shovel to continue digging.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand that, you know, why? You know, is it that we have a cultural bigotry against the poor that's shared by both conservatives and progressives?
The public, we got out of COVID. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but you know, fear, hatred, politicians are pandering to voters. They've been able to weaponize criminalization rhetoric. We've seen it locally in Los Angeles, and I'm sure it's going to happen really big here in 2024. And the election season is just starting, and there's billions of dollars that go into campaign ads that saturate every media channel that are going to be spreading misinformation and intentional disinformation, pushing for criminalization, not for any other reason than they want your vote.
Exactly.
All of these criminalization approaches, whether it's Kentucky, San Francisco, Johnson v. Grants Pass, are rooted to be homeless. And if we make homelessness hard enough, as if it isn't already incredibly hard, they're just going to choose to not be homeless anymore, and nothing could be further from the truth.
I would substitute the word painful and more suffering. Not just hard,
I don't mean to laugh,
but more cruel. They seem to have an idea that cruelty is somehow a solution to poverty.
Yeah.
I've talked to state legislators and advocating around homelessness who have literally said, I have constituents calling my office saying there's an encampment on my corner and they want it gone, and I want to be responsive. And the only tool that I have is to offer. I can call the service provider. They'll tell me there's no shelter bed open, or that there's no rental voucher unless someone is on a wait list for a decade, right? And so I think that it's becoming like increasingly at the surface, right? That some of this is at work.
You know, before 2020, I would have believed that. But I was astonished by March of 2021 when they somehow found money and they found resources to completely protect and get off the streets every single vulnerable person in Miami. Seniors who are homeless.
Yeah.
They went into the disabled ones, the ones that had the physical disabilities and the wheelchairs. Then they went into the ones with chronic diseases. But basically, they found a way to put into hotels, motels, and other shelters every single person on the streets. There are no excuses. We know how to end homelessness, and we have the resources right here and now.
I think there's truth to what you're both saying, right? Which is, I'm walking down the street, I see an encampment, I don't want to see it anymore. I call my local elected official. Their tool belt is pretty limited. The funding that we need, that the federal government has shown that whether it's money for war or money for putting people in hotels, they have access to, exists. But when you see an encampment, you're not calling your senator, you're not calling the White House. And I think that's where the discrepancy is. What if your senator's phone rang every time you saw an encampment? There would be a different sense of urgency.
And David, I don't know Florida, but I know California. And the reason they call it Project Roomkey here, the reason that they started putting homeless people in hotels wasn't to help homeless people. They were worried homeless people would take up ICU beds for the housed people So if the housed people got COVID and all these homeless people took up the ICU beds, oh my gosh, what are us housed people going to do?
Right.
But we also saw emergency housing vouchers. We
Oh,
saw
yeah.
emergency rental assistance, right? Some of the housing resources at scale, recognizing people can't afford housing. People are going to lose their housing in
Good
this
point.
crisis, right? So I think it's like a really good point that the resources are there. And I even think at a state level in California. So we saw through COVID federal funding kind of an unprecedented but one-time infusion of resources through COVID, and communities have been able to make a lot happen with that. And it's already, we're facing these huge cliffs as numbers go up. And the question of, are we willing to really look at new revenue sources? Are we willing to look at things like corporate tax rates and taxing wealth? So even though those tools are limited, they're really big questions. Like those, I think what you're saying really resonates around, like, the resources are out there. It's just a matter of having the political will to invest in solutions. And to me, the irony of it all is,
I just love the Invisible People newsletter. Whenever I see it pop up on my inbox, it's the very first thing that I click on because it always contains such interesting and valuable information. It is such a valuable, invaluable resource that I look to every week.
it's just a matter of having the political will to invest in solutions. And to me, the irony of it all is that's the only thing that's going to get encampments off the street.
That's the only thing missing. I certainly greatly respect what you guys say. The lesson that I learned from 2021 was, regardless of what the motivation is, when the powers that be, the state, local, and federal governments see that there is an emergency, regardless of what their motivation is to protect the well-paying white people living up in $1 million towers, it's not a matter of compassion for the poor, but regardless of what the motivation is, when they see there's an emergency, they can find the money.
Oh, yeah.
The money suddenly appeared.
If
Okay.
there was an
And
earthquake
then
here,
the money
heaven
is
forbid, they would find housing for everybody
Yes.
displaced.
exactly. And they found housing for each and every person on the streets. So to me, there are no excuses. We can
know how to
this
do it.
year.
So
Okay, if the political will was, that's the only thing missing. We know how to do it. We have the resources. The only thing missing is a political will.
and public and political will. We kind of went out the gate and we're running, but you mentioned Grants Pass. So you want to bring us into that conversation?
To get involved, people should visit www.johnsonvgrantspass.com. There are about 40,000 people who live there. In Grants Pass, like in America, half of the rental households can't afford it. There is a gospel rescue mission where, in order to stay there, you have to work 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, go to church twice a day, and pay $100 a month for the pleasure of living there. If you're too old or sick or elderly to work, you can't stay there at all. We know that when rents are high and there are no shelters, people live outside or in their cars. Grants Pass decided to respond to homelessness, not with things that work like services or housing, but by giving people $350 tickets for using things like a blanket or a pillow. Their camping ban literally calls out blankets and pillows. That's how cut and dry this is. The Oregon Legal Center and people experiencing homelessness didn't think that was fair. They sued the city, and the court said, you're right. If the city's not going to provide you a safe place to stay, it's cruel and unusual punishment for them to give you a ticket for doing what you have to sleep outside. Unfortunately, a whole group of cities and states and corporations and business interests came together and said the Supreme Court needs to reverse this. A lot of the logic and the rhetoric they were using said that the reason why we have homelessness in California is because we can't arrest people.
That's so insane to me.
Me too.
Yes, but that's what they said. And the Supreme Court,
It's insanity.
the Supreme Court was moved enough by that argument to say, yeah, we're going to hear the case. And this is an inflection point for our country. This is really a time where we're asking the question, does the Constitution protect homeless people or does it not?
It does.
And we can either go in one of two directions. We can say people experiencing homelessness are protected by our laws or they are not. We think we can win the case, but I want to be very clear that even if we win the case, the Supreme Court will produce exactly 0 units of housing and exactly 0 units of shelter. So this has to be a galvanizing moment, an inflection point for the entire country, for us to move away from this harmful, untrue narrative that we can punish our way out of homelessness and fund the housing that we need. David, talk about Miami. I think it's so important.
I want to return back to this motivation question because I think it's so important. The second lesson that first of all, and then it begs the question, why aren't they doing it? Okay. Is it intentional, is it accidental, and people just throwing up their hands? And I'm coming to the conclusion that it's very intentional, that the system is exactly as designed, that is a concern to dehumanize a segment of our population, okay, to relegate them into areas outside of the urban areas, okay, and this is reflected within the Cicero Institute legislation, provide inner cities for the people who can afford the escalating outrageous rents. And in order to do that, you have to dehumanize a certain segment of the people who are poor, the people who are people of color, Black people, and brown people. This is the way that you maintain the system, you prop it up, you keep real estate prices high. Because if you have housing first and you have housing as a human right, that's going to affect the bottom line of these capitalist real estate developers. So it seems to me that if you really want to discern the basis of any American policy, you use those 3 words that came from Watergate: follow the money. Look to see who is profiting off of poverty, who is profiting off this misery, who is profiting off this pain and suffering. And you'll see that the
Clarence
folks
Thomas,
at the top
all the
of
rich
this
people.
Cicero Institute are the people that run these venture capitalist private equity that basically make a hell of a lot of money off of the high-end real estate market. And Housing First is a direct attack on their abilities to make profits.
I was a person that didn't believe in all this. I mean, because it sounds like James Bond villain shit. Right? You're right. And then all of a sudden Cicero Institute pops up and Joe Lon. No,
he's looking at little kitty and he's looking out of his window. And
I mean, I clearly think Joe Lonsdale is a James Bond villain, and I don't disagree, but I'm conflicted because in DC, the way we got the voucher program to work was to pay exorbitant voucher prices. So landlords were actually profiting from housing people experiencing homelessness, which I know isn't the case everywhere, but like they're actually making more money by housing someone with a voucher than they would someone else, which totally destroys the market, and there are all of these other implications. But I agree, and I think it's a bit more complicated, but no disagreement. Joe Lonsdale is a bad dude.
Yeah. DC may be different because we have so many examples in Miami of people with housing vouchers who find it impossible to find housing.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, when you think about like what the end game is of some of these like criminalization policies, it does make you really question the motivation, because just the logical conclusion of you have someone who is in a very precarious situation, they have a few belongings, their belongings get taken. That could be their ID. That could be their medication, right? Like what could help them get into housing. They're maybe put out of contact with the service provider that has been supporting them try to get into housing. So now it's even harder for them to get into housing. They get a $350 ticket, which they can't pay. They have to go to court. If they don't pay it, a warrant could be issued for their arrest, right? Like all of these things are just barriers that get between someone actually having the outcome that we say would end homelessness, right? Getting them housed. And so it does you start to question, like, what's the plan here? And I can see how you can kind of conclude that, like, oh, this is the plan. Like there isn't really a clearer plan to actually get people housed.
Dehumanization and class warfare. Move the poor out of the cities, reserve the cities for the people who can afford these outrageous escalating rents. That appears to me to be the plan. Maintain the commodification of housing and fight against housing as a human right.
Well, here in California, it's $132,000 per inmate per year. So the thinking that we're going to arrest our way out of homelessness is literally insane.
So why do they all do it? They're not insane. They're very sane.
Well, that is where I have problems, David, because you look at, these high net worth individuals and you're like, they're smart people.
Exactly.
But even on their own, they're pushing conspiracy theories. And it's like, how can somebody that smart believe that or even share that?
I feel like everything we're saying is so common sense. And so many people, most people are experiencing strains in their budgets because they can't afford housing. And so, but also people don't, I think, see themselves as closer to homelessness than they are to Joe Lonsdale. So like, that's my question is how do we really get people to kind of invest in the common sense solutions of getting people housed and also kind of make the solutions really work for everyone too, right? Because many of us are struggling, right? This is a conference full of people working to end homelessness. In Los Angeles, there was a report that said most people working to end homelessness have experienced homelessness themselves, and they're not getting paid enough to afford housing in Los Angeles, right? So it's a problem that's really touching so many of us. And I've been really curious in trying to like sit with how do we kind of make the logic of what we're talking about really catch hold with how many people are impacted by this crisis.
And I think one small thing we can do is recognize that like those of us who think about homelessness all day, it's been really illustrative to learn that like, of course, when we know that when rents are high, people experience homelessness, but most like the average American doesn't make that connection intuitively. And we have to really just draw it out and hold their hand and be like, yeah, do you know why there's so many people experiencing homelessness in San Francisco? It's not because they don't have laws that they can criminalize them. It's because rent is too high. And did you know that when rent is high, more people experience homelessness? And if we can just draw those connections for people, we can start to reframe the narrative away from homelessness being a personal choice and towards homelessness being a policy choice.
So this whole personal choice versus policy choice rather than a personal choice is very interesting. And I think that's that myth that people choose to be homeless, okay, a reckless and dangerous myth that I think is promulgated. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? All I'm saying is those three words: follow the money. Yeah. See who is profiting off of poverty. See who is profiting off of homelessness. Okay, it's not conspiracy. Maintaining this myth that people choose to be homeless is part of the ways to prop up the system. If we stop believing that if we stop overemphasizing the personal responsibility portion of being homeless and underemphasizing, totally ignoring the systemic issues that manufacture poverty, because poverty is a manufactured. There needs to be no poverty in America, period.
I always say the only choice in homelessness is if you're going to take action to fix the affordable housing crisis.
Exactly. If we ignore the systemic issues that manufacture poverty and breed homelessness, then we can maintain that status quo.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. It's intentional.
Well, you'll notice that the people that are often screaming about the homeless industrial complex, and there is a homeless industrial complex, and we need to get better. There's waste, there's bureaucracy, but nobody that I've met is going, let's grow homelessness, right? But if you look at the other side, the criminalization industrial complex, they are going, and they're the ones pushing.
Yes, thank you, Sable.
That. And the truth is, homeless sector is better than it ever has of housing people, but they can't keep up. I mean, here in the Bay Area, for every person they get out of homelessness, 3 new people enter into. That's why more money is being spent. That it's not that the homeless sector is failing and wants to grow the homeless industrial complex. It's because we haven't fixed the systemic causes of homelessness.
And it gets me so riled up at these people saying, all of you homeless advocates who are getting rich, we're not. The people pushing that are literal billionaires. They're literal billionaires. What would it look like if we tax them out of existence to fund the housing that would end homelessness?
This idea that people choose to be homeless is a bald-faced lie. I have been homeless my myself. I lived for 2.5 years on the streets of Miami. I'm not an advocate for the homeless. I've literally interacted with thousands of people who have experienced homelessness. I have not met one person who would freely leave the safety of 4 walls and a locked door to live unsheltered and vulnerable on the streets. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So we need to, first of all, understand that homelessness, urban homelessness, I'm sure that some people maybe in the wilds of Montana or Idaho or someplace like that might want to live off the grid, but no one chooses homelessness. Okay, we need to full stop on that. The second issue we need to understand is this one about sanctioned encampments. And I've changed radically my view on sanctioned encampments. I thought perhaps, well, maybe ones are not run by the government, they maybe naturally arise. Maybe those aren't too bad. Safe place for people to reside. No. Everyone deserves safe and habitable housing, and we should not relegate the poor to be living in tin cans or tents or anything like that. Tiny homes are fine as long as they have plumbing, electricity, air conditioning, heating, and a toilet. Okay, as long as they have those things,
Yeah,
fine.
jail cells have toilets. Bailout shelters do not.
But as long as they're habitable, okay, the poor deserve the dignity and respect of a habitable place just like anybody else does. And we should not relegate the poor to live in tent cities. And if we encourage sanctioned encampments, cities are going to race to the bottom.
Well, that's the problem, is that it's all moving towards forced internment camps.
Exactly. And that's what they've become. In 1930s Germany showed us what happens when you dehumanize a segment of people, move them into internment camps, then you see the slippery slope of what happens.
The other thing I would say in terms of what people can do is there's grants passed. That's happening in the Supreme Court. But there are pieces of legislation in dozens of states across the country as we speak, including California, to essentially pass new criminalization laws all across the country. And we talked a little bit about politicians responding to pressure and how they're responding to the pressure that they're getting from folks who are saying, we want to see this encampment gone.
There's
Well, we also need
controlment
to
in
be
the homeless
responding with that
shelters.
pressure of like, we want investment in the real solutions. We don't want you to pass more failed policies that are just going to perpetuate homelessness in our community and harm people further. And so I think, Housing Not Handcuffs is another website that the National Homelessness Law Center runs, which shows where there are active pieces of legislation across the country.
There's a threat tracker.
Exactly. And so, being clear on whether there's something in your home state that legislators could be voting on in the next week or the coming months to be able to stop some of these threats as they arise, I think is also a big part of the kind of groundswell that we need to be working towards.
And I think it's really important to be rooted in hope and possibility. And I think it's important to name that, like, we have beat back the Cicero Institute in states like Hawaii, Iowa, Kansas, Indiana. Our scrappy group of underpaid, overworked homeless service professionals and advocates are literally beating back billionaires. And we can do that more, and we can do that better when we all come together with an understanding that criminalization not only does nothing to end homelessness, it makes homelessness worse.
A lot of this is driven by the public complaining to politicians. That is an issue that we need to solve. And for me, how you stop that is by removing encampments with housing, because encampments with criminalization will just grow. But how do you have any sense of how many people are calling, and how do we get businesses and the public to say, okay, well, this criminalization is just pushing people around. We need to really solve homelessness.
Yeah, the very few people making calls to local elected officials can have a huge impact. I think our side has forgotten how powerful we can be. We're really good at mobilizing people around a specific thing, but like the opposition is calling a council member every day to be like, hey, I don't want to see this encampment here, and I'm not going to vote for you if it's there. Only guys try to win a battle in DC, and I asked the chief of staff to a council member how they were going to vote. And she called me into her office and pulled up their neighborhood next door page and was literally tallying comments for, comments against. And there were like 4, like in how they made their decision. Wow. So we give up things like we don't want to get in arguments on Nextdoor or Facebook. And
America by next door.
Exactly, but it's terrifying.
It's scary.
And how many of us have canceled our Nextdoor accounts because it's a racist shithole? But that's what elected officials are using.
Agree that I don't officially on local and state officials. A place where a lot of folks show up is not just calling their electeds to say, hey, I see this encampment, but also when they're support housing development donating and complain, they don't have that empathy, they don't have that understanding. And I've seen in real time how it takes like just having a handful of people there in person voicing strong support, talking about the evidence, how it could work to give politicians to do the right thing. And it's not the sexiest form of advocacy to think about like your local zoning committee meetings, but I do think that, you know, we can think about what we can do as advocates, as a sector, to make those people to really all feel and have to take that kind of
that you can get from that. Either A, that's their own damn fault. Okay, this mentally ill, drug abused person made the wrong choices, and so they're sitting here, filthy and stinking and bleeding in front of the home that I spent my discipline and sweat and business, you know, to build up, and they're taken away from that. And apartment off a $7.25 minimum wage, and he also has chronic disease, diabetes, that prevents him from working, that he can't even get health care for because he can't afford a predatory for a healthcare system. Okay, so now you're taking away from that personal responsibility, and you're looking now at systemic issues that force that person to sleep in front of your business. Okay, so maybe we can take a different perception here and say, well, instead of punishing that person, you know, we're seeing here that maybe that's not that person's fault. Maybe we need to do things to change our system here, our institutions, in order to protect that person, and also strengthen our community. Because by lifting that person back into being a productive member of our community. To answer this question about this complaint, it goes deeper into our perception of whether these are unhoused neighbors or members of our community that need a hand up versus irresponsible people that just want free stuff, that have made bad choices, and they need to be punished even more.
If you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
About homelessness or life?
Whatever. The genie's just rubbing the lamp.
A larger measure of empathy for folks. It's not this divisiveness, you know, of us versus them, to think that people simply by virtue of poverty are somehow different or lesser or lower. This Horatio Alger, what do you call it, lifts them up by the bootstraps nonsense. Maybe that's a second wish would just go away, because research has shown that the economic quintile that your parents in are overwhelmingly going to be the economic quintile that you are going to be in. You know, if you really want to be a millionaire, you have to choose your parents wisely. You know, so I would wish for empathy, and I'd wish for people to be disabused of this notion. You know, I mean, of course, some people move up, some people move down, but overwhelmingly, there's some very powerful forces that keep you in the same economic circumstances as your parents.
Yeah, mine was something like, housing, food, and care for everyone first for that to be possible, right? Because that is the logical conclusion of believing that everyone deserves what they need to thrive. Is when you have that empathy, it makes perfect sense that that's like what we need to be delivering.
And I think it goes back to what David was talking about during COVID, which my wish is like we actually remember that all of our well-being is interconnected. And when we do that, the government can put cash in our bank accounts. The government can build housing and fund hotels. We can actually be decent to each other. But we've moved so far from that. Even in the past 2 years, it's heartbreaking.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to be decent to you.
Well, guys, that's all I have for the topic. I'm going to get more stuff coming this week on the 1st. Stay tuned.
That was
There'll be a lot
interesting.
of topics coming this month. Yep. It's going to be a lot of topics coming up this month. Well, guys, I'm going to end this. You guys take it easy. I'll talk to you later. But everyone, thanks for coming in. West Side, I'll talk to you later. And
Later.
don't forget to fill in. Bye-bye.
Bye.